$25 billion and a gleaming 28-acre district on Manhattan's far west side. That's what it took to build Hudson Yards, the largest private real estate development in American history. Developers promised a city within a city, a modern neighborhood that would redefine what New York could be. Instead, it became one of the most expensive cautionary tales in modern city building. 7 years after its grand opening, much of Hudson Yards still feels more like a polished showroom than a living community. Walk through on a weekend afternoon and you might think the place was staged for a commercial that nobody showed up to film. So how do you spend $25 billion and still end up with a ghost town? The idea for Hudson Yards traces back to the early 2000s, when New York was chasing the 2012 Olympics. That bid failed. But the vision for developing Manhattan's far west side survived. Stephen Ross, the billionaire chairman of related companies, called it a once-in-a-generation opportunity. Together with Oxford Properties Group, he pitched a total transformation of what had been a working rail yard into a modern urban district. The engineering alone was extraordinary. The entire development sits on a massive platform built over 30 active Long Island Railroad tracks, 3 rail tunnels used by Amtrak and NJ Transit, and a future Gateway Tunnel passageway that was already under construction at the time. Construction crews drilled 300 caissons deep into Manhattan bedrock, some reaching 80 feet down, all while trains kept running below. The eastern platform used 25,000 tons of steel and 14,000 cubic yards of concrete. It weighed more than 35,000 tons when finished. By March 2019, Phase 1 was ready. The world got the Vessel, a honeycomb-shaped staircase structure designed by Thomas Heatherwick. The Shed, an approximately $475 million cultural center designed by Dilys Scofidio and Renfro in collaboration with Rockwell Group, opened for performances and exhibitions. Edge launched at the 100th floor of 30 Hudson Yards, more than 1,100 feet above street level, becoming the highest outdoor observation deck in the Western Hemisphere. And the shops and restaurants at Hudson Yards opened as an upscale 7-story mall. That celebration aged quickly. For years, related companies promoted Hudson Yards as a privately funded achievement. The $25 billion price tag was supposed to be a story about private enterprise reinventing urban America. That framing was always incomplete. New York City spent approximately $2.4 billion to extend the 7 subway line from Times Square to a brand new station at 34th Street and 11th Avenue. That station opened in September 2015. Without it, Hudson Yards would have been impossible. Before the subway, the site drew almost no foot traffic, and there was no way to justify building millions of square feet of commercial space there. Then came the tax breaks. Related received hundreds of millions in Industrial Development Agency exemptions for constructing its towers and the mall. The 421, a tax abatement program which has been controversial across New York for decades, shielded residential construction from the full weight of property taxes. Add the city's own capital expenditures for parks, roads, the public square, and infrastructure, plus interest payments on the bonds floated to finance the subway extension, and the public contribution lands somewhere between $4.5 billion and $6 billion, depending on whose math you trust. The New York Times reported the figure at nearly $6 billion in government assistance and tax breaks. A 2018 Gothamist investigation pegged it at roughly $4.5 billion. The city's own independent budget office acknowledged that calculating a precise total is difficult because revenue generated by the development gets recycled back into debt service and infrastructure costs. Either way, calling Hudson Yards a purely private venture was always misleading. New York taxpayers helped build this place, and what they got for it is a fair question. To put the higher estimate in perspective, $6 billion could have funded roughly 30,000 units of affordable housing in a city where the waitlist for public housing stretches past 250,000 families. It could have modernized subway stations across entire boroughs. Instead, it underwrote luxury towers on the far west side. The framing matters. When a developer builds something as the triumph of private capital, but the subway, the streets, the parks, and the tax breaks all came from public coffers, the word private starts to lose its meaning. Stephen Ross envisioned the vessel as Hudson Yards' answer to the Eiffel Tower. He said publicly that it will be to New York what I believe the Eiffel Tower is to Paris. He spent an estimated $200 million on a 16-story, 150-foot tall honeycomb of connected staircases designed by Thomas Heatherwick. The structure, fabricated in Italy, contains 154 flights of stairs, roughly 2,500 individual steps, and 80 landings. When it opened in March 2019, visitors flooded the structure. But the vessel had a fundamental design flaw that proved tragic. Its open-air layout, with low railings and wide gaps between levels, created serious safety vulnerabilities. Between February 2020 and July 2021, 4 people died by suicide at the structure. All 4 were under the age of 25. The vessel closed following the 4th death in late July 2021. For more than 3 years, it sat empty and fenced off, the centerpiece of a $25 billion development, and nobody could use it. In October 2024, the vessel reopened with floor-to-ceiling steel mesh barriers installed across most of its levels. The top level remains permanently closed because barriers could not be safely retrofitted there. Visitors can climb the stairs again, but the original vision of a wide-open, barrier-free public monument is gone. The struggles at Hudson Yards extend well beyond the vessel. Start with the retail. Neiman Marcus signed on as the anchor tenant of the shops at Hudson Yards, opening its first ever Manhattan location in March 2019. Roughly 14 months later, the luxury department store filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. By July 2020, just 16 months after opening, it permanently shuttered the Hudson Yards store. It left behind 188,000 square feet of empty space in a mall that already had trouble drawing foot traffic from beyond the immediate area. The problem is geography. Hudson Yards sits at the far western edge of Midtown Manhattan, and every single person who walks into that mall made a deliberate decision to go there. There is no passing trade. Related eventually converted nearly 444,000 square feet of the mall's original retail space into offices. Stores have cycled in and out, and the facade has been reclad. But the feeling of a half-occupied retail center persists. Then came remote work. Developers built Hudson Yards as an office-first district, banking on the assumption that tens of thousands of workers would flood in 5 days a week. The pandemic dismantled that model, and while major tenants have since mandated return-to-office policies, weekday and especially weekend foot traffic never fully rebounded to what developers originally projected. Walk through Hudson Yards on a Saturday, and you'll find what critics have described as suburban business park energy. Glass towers, clean walkways, and very few people. During the pandemic, Gotham has described the place as Manhattan's ghost capital, its high-end stores staffed but empty. Things have improved since then. The offices filled up, and foot traffic at the mall reached near 2019 levels by 2023, according to related companies. But the liveliness is lopsided. Weekdays hum during lunch hours when office workers grab coffee, and evenings and weekends go quiet. And the luxury residences? The numbers tell their own story. Penthouses at 15 Hudson Yards were originally listed at up to $32 million. Some sold well below asking. Listings in early 2026 showed units discounted by as much as 35% from original prices. A real community builds over generations. It has bodegas, laundromats, coffee shops where the barista knows your order. It has a dry cleaner that's been there 20 years and a pizza joint that closes when it feels like it. Hudson Yards has none of that. The New York Times architecture critic Michael Kimmelman described it as a supersized suburban-style office park paired with a quasi-gated condo community built to serve the wealthiest sliver of the population. He argued its design felt stuck in a prior decade, disconnected from the city grid around it. Walk from Hell's Kitchen into Hudson Yards, and you cross an invisible line. The bodegas and taco carts disappear. City noise fades. What replaces it is polished, curated, and eerily quiet. People who visit keep using the same word: soulless. They compare it to Dubai, calling it a corporate campus dressed up as a district. The top-rated comment on one of the most watched videos about Hudson Yards said it plainly: Hudson Yards is the Dubai of New York. You can spend $25 billion and build the towers, lay the platforms, extend the subway, and install public art. What you cannot do is manufacture the feeling of a living, breathing place. That requires time, messiness, and the kind of organic human energy that no developer's master plan can force into existence. It would be dishonest to call Hudson Yards a total failure. BlackRock moved its global headquarters to 50 Hudson Yards and has expanded its footprint there to over 1.2 million square feet. Meta holds a comparable lease across 22 floors of the same tower, though it has subleased roughly 194,000 square feet of that space back to BlackRock. Office space across the development is now fully leased, with Related CEO Jeff Blau declaring in May 2026 that the market has reached an all-time peak. Asking rents at 50 Hudson Yards run as high as $240 per square foot per year. Edge continues to draw visitors, and the Shed has established itself as a legitimate cultural venue. Phase 1 worked as a commercial district. What it failed to become is a place people actually live their lives. And Phase 2 has taken dramatic turns. Related companies and Wynn Resorts initially proposed a $12 billion expansion of the Western Rail Yards that included a casino and hotel. That plan made it through the City Planning Commission in April 2025 with a 9-4 vote. But local politics ended it. City Council member Eric Botcher, who represents the district, refused to back a casino. Wynn Resorts officially withdrew its gaming bid on May 19, 2025, citing persistent political opposition. The company said it could better allocate its capital elsewhere, including to stock buybacks and existing properties. What survived is a casino-free plan. In June 2025, the City Council approved a rezoning of the Western Rail Yards for up to 4,000 new housing units, with at least 625 designated permanently affordable. With the Phase 2 addition valued at $12 billion, the full Hudson Yards project is now estimated at $32 billion. The plan also includes a 6.6-acre public park, a 750-seat K-8 public school, daycare facilities, and 35,000 projected construction jobs. By the end of June 2025, the council greenlit the financing structure for a new $2 billion platform over the still active Western Rail tracks. That platform is arguably the most impressive feat of the entire Hudson Yards project. The same massive steel and concrete foundation, drilled into bedrock while trains keep rolling, will carry whatever rises above the Western Rail Yards. Whether what gets built on top of it actually feels like a real place, one with its own identity and its own rhythm, will define whether Hudson Yards earns a second chance. $25 billion bought towers, a subway extension, a staircase that had to be wrapped in steel mesh, and a mall that lost its anchor tenant in under 2 years. The developers built on top of a genuine engineering marvel for a version of New York that may have never existed outside of a pitch deck. So here's the question for you. If you had $25 billion and a blank 28 acres in the middle of Manhattan, what would you build instead? Drop your answer in the comments. Subscribe for more Megabuild stories.